Welcome to Ignite the CEO Within, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds of top business leaders to ignite your inner CEO. I'm your host, Mark McFatridge, founder of Quaid, and with each episode, we bring you inspiring conversations with CEOs and business owners who share their experiences, insights, and lessons learned along the way. Get ready to be motivated, empowered, and equipped with the tools you need to succeed in your own leadership journey. Let's ignite the CEO within you. Welcome to another episode of Igniting the CEO Within. I'm Mark McFatridge, founder and CEO of Quaid, and I am looking forward to hanging out with you for the next 30 minutes or so today. For those new to our podcast, I'll give you an overview of Quaid. Quaid's a community of CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs. We come together to challenge each other, to hold each other accountable, to share experiences and expertise, to help each other grow and achieve our goals. We do it in a bunch of different ways to support our community. The foundation of Quaid are our curated circles of CEOs and business owners. They meet regularly in a confidential setting, facilitated by CEO Experience Circle directors. Our community of CEOs is filled with diverse backgrounds and experiences, and the sharing of those is really vital to the professional and personal growth that happens within Quaid. That's what we're doing today. We're tapping into some of the expertise and sharing the background and the stories and experiences of some of our allies. And this podcast was built to share the many different paths that our Quaid allies took to get to the CEO seat. These paths are all different, and our guest today is no different. I am pumped to hang out with my guy, Chris Allaire, for the next 30 minutes. Chris is a founder and CEO of Averity, a recruiting firm that focuses on specific niches within the tech world. So, Chris, man, welcome to Igniting the CEO Within.
Thank you. Nice to see you. I'm a Quaid ally.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, I'm in the virtual circle. I love it. I got to tell you, it's been an awesome experience. Super happy I joined. It's been great. And now that we're here, so I wanted to wait till we got on air to say this. And if this is official.
All right. You make me nervous when you go off script, man.
No. This is official. Today's February 12th, 2025. So I'm going to say this out loud now because here's my dark horse. Put me to it. The World Series this year will be the Reds and the Red Sox.
Oh, we could only dream. That would be awesome.
It's a long shot.
1975 relived. Is that what we're going to do?
I think it's there. It's there.
I'm in, right? Like, I'm not going to turn that down. Reds fans like I am, we haven't had a ton to cheer about when you talk about playoffs specifically for a while, but I'm with you, man. I love Ellie De La Cruz and a lot of the work that they're doing in the offseason. It looks really cool.
I'm excited.
Well, like I said, kind of in the opening, one of the things that I love about doing this is I get to share these stories of how our allies either became entrepreneurs or became CEOs or whatever. And what's so cool to me is that no single story is the same. And I kind of know your story, but not all of it. I'm guessing yours is completely different than most. So I would just love for you to just start out and share kind of your path to launching Averity when you did.
I'll give much of the brief version as possible. So Averity is a technology staffing and recruiting firm. So we do full-time staffing, we do contract staffing, strictly in the tech space. It's a little bit more national now, but we're based in New York. So basically I started in the business in 1998, really honestly, just by accident. I answered a sales ad in the newspaper. I got hired and the job was make as many phone calls as possible, get some information. Hopefully you find some open jobs, et cetera. And I took to it like a duck to water and I really enjoyed it. It was very engaging, it's sales oriented. I have a very very outgoing personality. So it really worked well for me. So over the years though, so this was 1998. So fast forward now almost, what are we 25, 26 years later here, fell in love with the business of the business. So dealing with companies trying to hire people, dealing with companies trying to build their teams, helping CTOs and VPs build products, the products that we see on a day-to-day basis, whether it's on, your fantasy apps for sports or apps that connect you on a day-to-day basis. So I really just had a passion for the business side of what was going on out there. Over the years, I've worked for, and I've been very lucky to be the first person on the ground for many different startups, either startup offices for companies or the first boots on the ground to build companies from scratch. And everything I've been a part of has turned into a wild success. So it's that entrepreneurial side of me that I like the startups. People would, anybody's ever met me, I'm kind of a startup junkie. I really enjoy the first person on the ground.
Chris, take a step back though. Where did that come from? Did you see that in your parents or family members, or where did that launch from?
My father's an entrepreneur. He's a contractor. He's a builder. Self-employed since I was in middle school, and even before that, very entrepreneurial man. And I think I used to love it. I used to love going to job sites with him, and I loved pulling nails out of the boards and going there on the weekends. That's what I did. And I don't think I wasn't raised by people who were kind of the W-2 mindset where you just go to work and you get your salary. My mother was like that, but my father was definitely more of the kind of entrepreneurial aspects. Always had like little side hustles going on, whether it was in baseball cards or whether it was something else that he was doing on the side. So it was always really cool to see angles that you could take in the business world. And I just took to it. I just always made sense to me when we would have a table at, baseball card dealership and we're, hustling baseball cards, so it always stuck with me. It was always fun. So I always loved that entrepreneurial aspect of business.
And then I'm sure watching your father probably, do deals, whether it was on the contracting floor or at card shows or whatever, but watching the interactions that had to stick with you and get ingrained in your body pretty easily too.
Yes. My father's never met a stranger. He'll talk your ear off. If he's standing in line at a coffee shop, he will be best friends with 4 people around him. It's just his natural gift. It's amazing. Sometimes you're with him growing up as a kid. It's a little embarrassing, but as an adult, I look at it and I'm like, man, it was one of the coolest things ever because he talked your ear off about going to Aruba or whatever he had going on cooking at the time, and people loved it. And then he was one of those kind of guys that you just got to know him really as a person more than anything else. And his work is impeccable. So then when it came to trusting him, everything he said, you just listened to. So I'm very fortunate. He's a hard worker. He's a Marine. He's raised by an amazing man. Now I get to send this to him. So he's gonna love hearing that. That's for sure.
That's cool. That's cool. Did you have siblings?
I have 3 sisters who are all entrepreneurs. I got one sister who owns her own company. She's wildly successful. I have another sister who's also, all 3 of them are wildly successful. Another sister's also has side hustle going on for business that she does, as well as other things that she's got cooking. She's been C-level suite executives for Fortune 100 companies. All 3 of them are like just pretty in awe of what all 4 of us as children have done. So if I were my parents, I'd be pretty effing proud of what they spawned.
That's cool. So, all right, sorry, I interrupt you. You were going down the path of leading to Averity, and you took to the industry like a duck to water. And
well, that's where it came from. So I think is where the natural entrepreneurial instinct comes from, is you see things that are going on and you see a way that they can be improved. They see a way that they can be better. And I don't mean like, oh, we'll just like, let's fix this. But I was like, there's holes in the industry. And there were certain times that I was just working and I realized that these holes were not going to get fixed. And there was a time in 2013 or going into 2014 or something like that. I was in sales. I was a VP or director or something like that for a national company. And I'm running in this New York office. I've got 13 people working for me. And I started realizing that when we were meeting with clients and talking to people, I was defending the company I worked for rather than reeling in the business. So 60% of my sales work was like, no, that's not what we're doing. Sorry, you have a bad taste in your mouth. And I remembered, I'm like, man, most of my career was defending, not building. And I just got fed up with it. I just got so sick of it. And I was like, you know what? The only way that change is ever going to happen in this industry is if I do it. So you know what? F it. I'm going to change the entire industry, no big feat whatsoever, just going to take a multi-billion-dollar industry and just change the whole thing. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to be weird. For my small pocket of what I've done it. And I knew that was going to happen. So I have 2 daughters that are now 11, about to be 12 and 8. And at the time I had a daughter who was 6 months old, who was crawling around the ground. And I remember coming home one day and I remember looking at my wife going, you know what? I'm done with this. I think I need to start my own company. And my wife, being the amazing, unbelievable woman she is, looked at me and said, I think it's about time. So rather than my partner in life, talking me out of absolute insanity and like, maybe we should sit down and discuss this, let's go over financial budget. She just kicked me right off the cliff without a parachute. She was like, all right, go. And I was like, whoa. So, all right, that was it. So I put pen to paper on really what I wanted to do, my belief system, my whys. And I said, I'm going to go do this. And then that was the beginning of it. That was end of April, beginning of May, 2014. And so almost 11 years later, here we are.
So you wrote your Jerry Maguire outlook on the industry and said, this is how we're going to do it?
Actually, it's exactly what I did. Yes.
Yeah. I have no doubt. What disgusted you about the industry in the way it existed that it prompted you so much to put it to paper and go, I'm changing this thing because this sucks?
Technology recruiting has a bad reputation, has always had a bad reputation of used car salespeople, salespeople, round peg in a round hole. No one listens to you. Nothing's transparent. Very much just blow a bunch of smoke up your butt to get you to go do whatever I need you to do, wasting people's time, no transparency. I'm just got tired of it. And my reputation through what I've been doing prior to even starting Averity has been impeccable. So the relationships I had with people, it was awesome because I'm one of those golden rule type of guys. I think about the long term, not the short term. You treat other people the way you want to be treated. Understand that the seeds you plant today are going to grow tomorrow. So all those mentalities have been my mentality forever. And they've always worked. And unfortunately, not a lot of people agree with that mentality. So for me, I was like, I'm just tired of it. And I think the big straw that broke the camel's back for me was I met with a CTO for drinks. He was referred to me from a CEO that I've been doing business with for years. So he's like, I need to sit down. And he's like, I need to talk to you. And I was like, all right, cool. Before we do business together, I want to meet with you. I want to sit down and talk. So we go to a bar, we grab a couple of drinks, we're hanging out, and he's like getting to know me a little bit. And he's like, okay, here's the deal, dude. He's like, I've never seen a recruiter more recommended than you are. Like, basically, if you want your jobs filled correctly, you need to work with Chris or else. And I was like, wow, that's phenomenal. Thank you. And he's like, however, I despise the companies you work for. And that's when it really got me. And that's when I kind of was like, what the am I doing? I'm like, this is ridiculous. I have people calling me for business. And at the time, he actually asked me, he was like, would you go outside of your organization and work just as a side hustle, 1099 for me? And I was like, unfortunately, I just don't like the ethics on that. I'm not going to. However, don't be alarmed if now that this conversation is happening and within a couple of months, things don't move a little bit. So all in all, that's what I just kept looking at. And I couldn't do it anymore. I was done with it. And I just said, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth it to do it for somebody else, not when I can do it for myself.
Yeah. It boils back to control what you can control. And the more you can control, the better off you're going to be.
Also, it's like, I want to work for a company that I want to be happy at. We've all had that. You're like, well, this job's just miserable. And you're going in and you just wake up one day, you're like, what am I doing here? And something's got to change. And the fact, if you want to go out on your own, that's some bravado. You've got to all risk, all reward, but man, you've got to take it on. So that's not an easy feat. It's like, I'll pat myself on the back to do it, but I'm like, I got to that point. I was like, I'm done with this. And I'm not going to go work for some other slug. I'm going to go do this on my own. And if I fail, I fail.
We'll dive back into the conversation in just a moment. But first, a quick word from one of our strategic partners, Ice Miller. For more than a century, Ice Miller has helped clients navigate the full range of legal and business issues they face. Whether it be in the boardroom or the courtroom, our lawyers have evolved with the marketplace, providing sound counsel when you need it the most. Though our Midwest roots run deep, we serve clients from coast to coast and bring to bear international capabilities and insights. As a cohesive team, Ice Miller stands ready to provide cutting-edge legal solutions tailored to you. Learn more at icemiller.com. I've said it all along that the role of a CEO, the role of an entrepreneur, a business owner, is the most difficult role that you could ever have for a variety of reasons. Obviously you've got literally everything on the line that you put out there, but everybody thinks your job's easy because you're the owner, right? Or you're the CEO and you could take off whatever time you want, you can make whatever you want and all that kind of stuff. And it's completely the opposite. And it takes a special type of person to be able to sit in this seat. And it's never easy. There's not an easy night that any of us go through that we're like, oh, we're smooth sailing now. So throughout these, 25, 26 years, have you had many surprises? Have you ever gone like, damn, I don't know if this is going to work? Or has it just been like a rocket ship?
Oh God, no. It's been an absolute roller coaster. So I've been through some over 25 years doing what I do. So we're going to go back a little bit here. For those of you who aren't old enough to know this, in the early 2000s, the late 90s, we had this thing called the dot-com boom. Right after that, we had the dot-com bust. That bubble burst and it hit hard. Years later, we had the financial collapse, right? So let's go to now from 2001 down into 2008, 2009. The world's financial system crumbled right in front of us. I was in New York at that time. I watched Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns go zero. 50-year-old institutions that'll, too big to fail, happened right in front of my eyes. Keep going. All of a sudden 2020 rolls around. We've got this pandemic that happens, which happens every 100 years, but now that wasn't on my calendar. Now, the last couple of years, we're going through this weird economic climate where there's layoffs going on, but stock prices are going up and CEOs are, cashing in options, but no one really has any idea. Are we in a recession? Is it a white collar recession? What are we going through? So my entire career has been built by ups and downs. You reap the rewards of what happens when on the really good times of what you do, but those slow times are the ones that really make you stronger because you really have to be humble and you have to figure out, all right, how do we get through this?
Yeah. Keep going there. So my assumption is during all those valleys, a lot of people in your industry didn't survive, but Averity has, and you've thrived, right? I mean, we used to have a saying that we can hold our breath longer than anybody else. And it seemingly that's kind of what you guys have been able to do. How? What's been the key to that?
So the last 2 years in particular have been absolutely brutal. So to give everybody kind of an idea of what I've really been through, I never wanted to be the biggest player on the field. I never wanted this idea of the best. I don't understand the competition level and who I'm competing with to become better than somebody. So I never had that. But my story, what I really wanted to build was around something that was just amazing. So from 2014 into 2023 was nothing but growth. I have 2 national awards. My company has been voted the best for staffing industry analytics, is the best staffing and recruiting company to work for in North America. I have 2 of those awards. I have 22 and I have 23, and I was runner-up in 2021. So to go through all that stuff and then to walk into the economic downturns of 2023, to go from basically 45 or 48 people, literally inside 3 months, to go down to 6 is brutal. So how do you go through that? And I think that's where the rubber hits the road. Anybody can celebrate the great victories, right? You throw a pass deep, somebody catches it, touchdown, you're like, this is awesome. Doesn't work that way all the time. So I have tips, tools, and tricks that I like to offer for someone who's been through this a lot, not only owning my own company, but has been in sales for well over 25 years. Okay. Number one, I know it's hard to say this, you got to fight. You're not in your seat as a CEO, entrepreneur, business owner, builder, unless you're a fighter. And I don't mean like, oh, I like to fight. No, I mean like when you get hit and you hit the mat, do you get up? And when you get up, do you keep going? Because you're going to get hit again and you're going to get knocked down again. But do you get up and do you keep going? Do you get up? Do you keep going? So if you're not a fighter, I would highly suggest you either become one quickly, get involved with someone who is, or you might want to reconsider your position because it's going to hit you in the face and it's going to hurt. Now, do you hit back? Do you give up? What do you do? So number one, you got to be a fighter. You have to continue to figure out ways during the hard times, the idea of, depending on what industry you're in, you have to always add value. Now, adding value could be anything. It could be news, it could be articles. It could be, hey, I was thinking about you. It could be, what you have to be able to do is figure out ways to continue to add value to your customers, to your clients, even though you're not selling something. And that's the thing about it is everyone wants to buy something, but nobody wants to be sold to. And when no one's buying anything, the last thing we want to have a call from is a salesperson. However, if they get a call from someone who adds value to, whatever their society is, hey, I saw this. I was thinking of you, wanted to forward on the article. Let me know your thought. Hope you're well, right? So what we want to be able to do is continue to add value to their world, to their community. You do that by creating conversations with people that genuinely are interested in you as a human being. Now, that's the other thing about it. It's like, as a human being, we all go through things together, right? When we went through the pandemic, we were all in this together. It wasn't like, oh, Mark, you're quarantined. I'm not, man. That sucks to be you. Let me know what happens. I'm going to go to the movies and all the restaurants. It's like, no, we were all in this together. So what do you do? So it's not this idea of, it's not sympathy, but it's empathy. So you have to understand that most of the time we're all in this together. So when you're all in it together, keep it real. And I'm not talking about like positivity and optimism or one thing. And forgive me for saying this, but don't bullshit. Like when people are, if everything is kind of down and everybody's like, the last couple of years, especially in the tech space and the economy, have been brutal. I mean, it's been awful. And nobody's been like, well, I'm winning. It's like, no, you're not, dude. Like you're, unless you're the CEO of a company after you laid off 60,000 people and made billions of dollars, that's one thing, but most of us aren't that person. So when someone asks you, how's it going? And your response is, oh, it's awesome. I'm doing great. That's crap. That is BS, man. Don't start with that. How's it going? Honestly, it's rough. It's tough out there right now. I'm struggling. I'm trying to survive. Tap into my retirement account. Never thought I'd have to do that right now, but listen, we're going to figure it out. How are you doing? And then people right off the bat are like, wow, you know what, man, it's nice to hear. Not that, they don't want to have this pity party. Like no one wants that, but it's like, all right, let's figure out a way to kind of do this, right? Something that I've learned a lot over the last couple of years that I want to pass on, that I have passed on, but I really want to emphasize this, all right? When you're going through it, that means a million other people are going through it. There is such a thing out there. It's called the band of brothers, right? So look at your competitors, start to look at them as friends. Band together, start to have each other's backs, commit to helping everybody make the community a better place. How can we come together? Start commenting on their posts, engage with them. I've become much closer to people that are in my competitive space. They don't really compete with me, nor do I compete with them, but we are in a competitive space. But what I could bring forward to them was like, now is the time for us to band together. Like we are going to make it through this. It's you go, we go. Like we have to lift each other up. We have to look at this thing and be like, okay, how do we thrive? How do we survive the situation, come out thriving in the back end of this, right? So when you start to look at all those types of things, you will start to move forward. I know this is very simple, but a lot of people forget gratitude. Number one thing on my list every single day. You have so many things that you can be thankful for. And during the tough times, they're very easy to forget. all the things that you can be thankful for, but you need to be thankful for all of them. When you're in a slump, you have to look at everything as a win. We had a baseball analogy, right? I love the baseball is like, but when you're not hitting the ball, if you hit a hard ground ball somewhere, you've got to look at that like, hey, at least I hit the ball hard. If it's a dying quail somewhere in the outfield, hey, that's a base hit. So you've got to look at these things as wins. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to find ways to survive, thrive, and continue to march forward during the struggle. And those are just a nice small list of things. And I have literally a talk that he was called Fighting the Slump. And it's about a lot of this stuff like that. And, the way I put it, it's like sometimes you just got to celebrate the 3-yard gain. Everyone's looking for that 70-yard home run touchdown, but you know what? Like little 3-yard gains at a time will get you first downs.
Chris, I love all that. What I heard, so I heard be a fighter, have grit is another way to say that. Build relationships is what I heard. Be authentic is what I heard. Have an abundance mindset is what I heard. And then be grateful for what's out there, right? Those are the 5 things basically. And
that's a great summary.
Yeah, I love that. That's really powerful stuff to keep coming back to, and it simplifies it, right? And just puts it right in your face of just keep doing this shit. Don't worry about the stuff that you can't control. Don't worry about the things that are out there. But if you can focus on these 5 things every day, it's going to get better and you're going to be successful.
I think the big thing that I've seen too is, I think from a simple mentality vocabulary, when you start thinking about things like, what can I do? Change that to what will I do? Just that simple mentality of going from what can I to how can I is huge. And I've seen it also as like, what will I do versus like, how will I do it? When you start putting pen to paper, like, you know what? How am I going to do this? You've given yourself an action plan to go forward. And you're going to start a business on a whim. I mean, hopefully you put some thought and effort into it, but if you got here, you should be okay with doing this.
Well, and so one of my themes, which is the same thing, is always forward. Like I am a horrible history person because I don't care, right? Like I got to here and I want to get to here. I don't care how I got to here or what predicament put me into here. I'm here and I want to get here. How do I do that? Right? I'm not going to dwell on who screwed up or what error I made or whatever. And so you'll appreciate this. Do you remember the baseball bunch with Johnny Bench?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you know, Johnny Bench is my idol, right? I was a huge Red fan, huge catcher, all that stuff. And he had an episode where he talked about how you have to separate yourself from the offensive and defensive side of the game. And you can't let, if you strike out with bases loaded and you've got to come out and call pitches, you can't think about that strikeout anymore because you're doing a disservice to your team, to your pitcher, to everybody. If you're still focused on you and how you screwed up, to me, baseball at that point was the biggest, forget about what happened, move forward and, fix it. Right. And all that kind of stuff. And I love that mentality. I've lived it my entire life, and I'm going to put it right here and say I attribute it to the baseball bunch.
So I think it's those fun is like, I see that's also, I refer to that as just life, right? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, like, well, obviously you and I are really young and in shape. And I mean, we're pushing 30 years old, but these people who are, let's just hypothetically say they're, older than us, this idea of like longing for the past, right? Oh, I long for the great times of the past. Oh man. You don't think I wake up some days, I'm in the gym every single day working out. I love it. But you don't think I wake up every day and like, oh my God, I wish I was 21 again. I wish I was like 24. That was awesome, but that doesn't work that way. So why would you think that way? So stop longing for the great times of the past. Start thinking about the present and where you currently are and love it and appreciate it. Like, you know what? Like, look at everything I've got going on. All the dots, like there's a great speech from Steve Jobs. He talks about the connecting the dots. This dot led me to this dot, that led me to this dot, led me to this dot, that led me to where I am today, right? And that's what we call the past. Now, you have no idea where the next dot is going to go, but you can live in the dot with where you are live in the flow and the trust and everything else that I kind of mentioned, and then understand that that's going to take you to the next thought that you need to be. And then you'll look at the past thought and be like, oh my God, I remember going through that. And now you are where you are. And that could have been 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, for some people, 20 years ago. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened, dude.
Yep. Oh man, I love it. This is so cool. I love hanging out with you. We could go on for hours and we are bringing all kinds of baseball folks and memories and all that kind of stuff, but we've got to call it today. But before we go, one of the things that I love to do is kind of get inside the heart and the head of our guest. And I do that by asking for your I believe statement. So if I turn to you and I say, Chris Allaire, what do you believe? What is that?
I believe that human connections run the world. I believe that it is not what you know, it's who you know. Because there is always somebody out there who knows more than you, but do you know that person? And can you reach out to that person? Can you say, hey, Mark, I'm in a bind right now. I'm dealing with something I've never seen before, but I know you've seen it. Can you help me out? What would you do? What have you done? And if you can understand that, and that my entire philosophy, again, on everything I do is people hire people. You don't hire technology. Technology is a tool. You don't hire AI. AI is a tool. Everything is a tool to get you what you need. But when you want to start a business, you're putting a pen to paper, right? A lot of great businesses were started on with a pen and a napkin at a bar. You're like, I just got this great idea. Let me write it down. After you have a great idea, the first thing you do is you find people to build it with you. Human connection is everything. That's what I believe.
Yep. Dude, I love that. Man, you're going to get me started. We're going to be here for another hour. But so I love that. I think two things. One, you got to get over yourself and ask for help too, right? You've got to understand that it's okay to reach out to people that know more than you know. And if they say no, or if they ignore you or they ghost you, you're no worse off than you were before. So that's one thing. The second thing though, that's part and parcel of that is people love to be asked for their expertise, right? They love it, and they will do somersaults to help you achieve and be successful if you just ask. So man, I love that statement. I love what you believe in. I love who you are. I am so thankful that you are in the Quaid community, that you and I are becoming fast friends. This is a blast. So thank you so much for joining Igniting the CEO Within. I really appreciate you, man.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks so much for the call. I'm sorry we had to limit this to a half hour.
It just means we have to do another episode. So
absolutely, I'll be around. And trust me, I can, as you know, I can talk a lot. So I have plenty of things to talk about.
I just hit go, right? That's all I need to do.
Yeah. Pull the string and just watch them go.
All right, folks, we have done it again. We found another pathway to the CEO seat. I really do hope that these episodes spark something inside of you that show you that you have what it takes to become an entrepreneur, that you have what it takes to be a CEO, that you are not fearful to move forward and do the things that you have on your sights. So until we meet again, this is Mark McFatridge. We'll talk soon. Thank you for joining today's conversation. If our discussion has sparked your interest in our community of unapologetically authentic leaders, head on over to QuaidCircle.com, where you can learn more about Quaid and take our exclusive CEO Mindset Assessment to help elevate your leadership journey. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and leave a review to help us continue delivering valuable insights and inspiring stories from top business leaders.